Welcome to the Shepherd's Wallet podcast, financial guidance that speaks pastor. I'm Seth Scott, and I help ministry leaders navigate the unique financial complexities that come with answering God's call. Pastors face one of the most complex financial situations of any profession, yet there's a shocking lack of targeted, useful information available to help them. That's what we're here to change. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by housing allowances, confused by SECA taxes, or frustrated that generic financial advice doesn't address your unique ministry situation, you're in exactly the right place. Today's episode, I'm sharing a live Q&A where I introduce my mortgage refinance calculator designed specifically for pastors. Here's the question: should you refinance your mortgage or pay it off early? Most pastors make this decision based on conventional wisdom that doesn't account for housing allowance benefits, and it often costs them thousands. Fair warning, this calculator is pretty visual, so for the complete walkthrough with real numbers, head over to YouTube and watch the full video. But here on the podcast, you'll hear my heart behind why I built this tool, plus the key problem it's designed to solve. Let's dive in. Pastors are worthy of double honor. 1 Timothy 5:17 through 18. It's the flagship verse of my practice and what I'm trying to build here with Shepherd's Wallet and the Sacred Capital community. Pastors are worthy of double honor, and that includes being paid well. Paul actually explicitly says that in this verse. So the whole stigma around pastors, it's like they shouldn't worry about money. The Lord should take care of them. They should be focused on ministry. It's all hogwash. Paul would not agree with you. Paul says that those that serve us spiritually should be monetized, should be compensated financially, and that includes being taken care of in all of their financial situations. Because let's face it, as we're learning more and more, those that are in the community and are reading through the articles and getting a set, I launched my YouTube channel last week. That's been really great. We've been blogging, so check out, shepherdswallet.com/blog. On YouTube, we are Shepherd's Wallet. We're on LinkedIn. I'm creating this whole media structure because I'm all about educating pastors on their unique financial situation. When I got the call to turn my practice upside down and serve pastors exclusively, this was back in fall of 2023 is when I got that call. I'd been spending the last 2 years, we're coming up on 2 years of that vision coming to me. And in that 2 years, I was trying to make pastors fit in with my existing practice. I'm a financial planner and a tax professional. So I was doing comprehensive financial planning. I was doing wealth management and advisory work. I was also doing tax returns. Still do all that stuff for some of my existing clients. But I realized that pastors need something different than just the traditional model. They really need to be educated, and they need to be met where they are. And the services that I provide, both this community, also the book that I wrote that's coming up in the spring, Shepherding Your Finances, set to release spring of 2026. It's currently with an editor. She's the perfect fit for this project. She's a financial planner herself and an enrolled agent, so she has her tax license. And she's also been an editor for 9 years. And so it's just absolutely perfect. Couldn't find a better person. And I'm really investing in making this the best resource that I can for pastors, the comprehensive guide to personal finances for pastors. And then, the third thing, I do individual financial coaching for those who have a particular situation and would like more individualized guidance. I offer that as a service as well. But really, with the community and with the book, I'm hoping to reach as many pastors as I can, because they've been left to navigate this landscape of their unique financial situation on their own. And it really is unique. I'm still learning things as I'm going about the special rules that the IRS has for pastors and churches, and how they can all leverage together and work together, and how, I've said it before, advice that I can give to 95% of financial planning clients and have it be good advice could be completely opposite for pastors, just because, again, they have all of these weird niche things about their finances, special rules that apply only to them. And they don't teach this stuff in seminary. And so pastors don't really know what they don't know. And financial professionals like myself don't often know what we don't know. And so I'm also about educating financial professionals as well. I'm going to start marketing to them and try to get them into the community so that we build this community of pastors and financial professionals who are all dedicated to financial stewardship, specifically for pastors. So today, what we're going to be going over is I want to go over another tool that I've developed. Last week, we talked about the housing allowance tool and how that works. I have another tool that's in the resources section, and this is a refinance calculator. Now, this is what I love about being a financial planner and a tax professional, and also just like an analyst by temperament. Like, I love just optimizing systems. Like, I love taking all this disparate information and putting it together into something where it all synergizes together and it all works together. And one of the things that is interesting about pastors in particular, especially those that are taking a housing allowance, is that means that they get a tax exclusion for their housing expenses. So, and that would include things like mortgage interest. So a pastor who has a mortgage payment, say they're paying $2,000 a month, over 30 years, and that housing payment is set to expire. That mortgage is going to get paid off after that 30 years. Well, what happens after that 30 years to their tax benefit? What happens to their housing allowance? Well, the housing allowance can only be as high as the actual expenses that the pastor pays for housing, and that includes the mortgage. And so once that $2,000 a month goes away, that's $24,000 a year that just disappears from their housing allowance. Like, they lose that tax benefit. And so the temptation, and you can take your housing allowance into retirement, by the way, if you have the right kind of church plan, and if you've planned correctly and have saved for retirement in that church plan, typically a 403b, then you can take distributions in retirement out of that plan and you can count it as housing allowance. A lot of pastors don't know that. Your housing allowance does not end just because you stop working in ministry. It can extend beyond that into retirement. And so housing allowance preservation is a big part of what I do when I work with pastors, either in a coaching capacity or otherwise, is really planning for, okay, how do we maximize your housing allowance into retirement? Now, the temptation is, okay, so we know that we have this sunset of the mortgage, and that means a sunset of the housing allowance benefit, right? Well, instead of just losing all that benefit cold turkey, when we pay off the house, what if we did a refinance, right? What if we took the existing loan and we replaced it with a longer loan? Say you're set to pay it off in 10 years, and you say, well, maybe I'll open up a 15-year or even like a 30-year mortgage at this point. The payment goes down, but at least you get the benefit for longer. So that's the temptation. The flip side to that is, and this is kind of unfair, is that you have to kind of choose, you kind of get one or the other. You can either get the benefit of not paying as much in mortgage interest, because if you pay off your mortgage early, of course, you're not paying as much interest, right? Because then you own the home free and clear, you're paying no interest. So it's not like the housing allowance is not free money. It's just a discount on your housing expenses. And so when your mortgage interest goes away, yeah, you lose the tax benefit, but you're also not paying any interest to the bank. And so that's the trade-off. And so really the mathematical question is, at what point do you break even? Is there a set of circumstances where you would be better off extending the mortgage and refinancing versus just paying it off? And so I have a tool here that takes all of that complicated nonsense, because the break-even point has to do with a lot of different factors. It has to do with, what's your tax bracket? It has to do with what's your interest rate, both the existing interest rate and the interest rate that you're considering with the refinance. How many months are left on the loan? How many months are you considering for a mortgage? And how does that all compare to just paying it off outright? Like, say you get a windfall inheritance tomorrow. And then the question is like, okay, well, do I pay off my house completely or not? So this tool essentially takes all those scenarios and it compares them all, and I'll show you how it works. And this is kind of a cool one. I like this. In general, I like paying off debt, but again, pastors have special rules because they have special circumstances. And so, I want to kind of just show um, what that could look like. Thank you for joining me on the Shepherd's Wallet podcast. I hope these strategies help you steward your sacred capital with greater confidence and peace. If you found this helpful and would like to go deeper in your stewardship journey, join the Shepherd's Wallet community at shepherdswallet.com/join. You'll get weekly live Q&A sessions, pastor-specific financial tools, and a community of fellow ministry leaders committed to faithful stewardship together. Also, you can pre-order my upcoming book, Shepherding Your Finances. It's the comprehensive guide to everything we talk about on this show, plus implementation worksheets and strategies you won't find anywhere else. Pre-orders are 35% off for a limited time at shepherdingyourfinances.com. Thanks for listening, and remember, you are worthy of double honor, including the honor of proper financial guidance. See you next week.